Philosophy has a long tradition of contemplating our understanding of time, debating its subjective or objective nature, and whether it even exists beyond our individual perceptions. Scientific and technological advances have developed in response to our need to understand and measure time, which has in turn influenced art. For example, Edward Muybridge's photographs allowed viewers to visualize motion that had previously been too fast for the naked eye. His sequential images were a precursor to the invention of film, which brought with it endless new possibilities for exploring and manipulating time. Hollywood directors discovered time-altering devices such as the flashback, the split screen, the flash-forward, and slowed and accelerated motion. The fast cuts of MTV, the emergence of the sound bite in television news and advertising, and the triumph of Hollywood action films all worked to shorten the audience's attention span. And the pause, fast-forward, and rewind buttons on the remote control put the control over the flow of time into our hands. Advances in electronic communication make it possible to experience what video artist Bill Viola calls parallel time, the sensation of existing simultaneously in one's body and in some far-flung location, to be as aware of what is happening in our apartment in Brisbane as in a war zone in the Middle East. In cyberspace, space and time become completely elastic. Technology can make past and present coexist and erase the distinction between here and there. The tension between real time, the live experience of time, and so-called real time, the digital manipulation of time, can be understood as a replay of the philosophical debate between objective and subjective understandings of time. Whether time is an absolute that exists beyond our experience of it, or if it's something that we can manipulate and therefore, at least to a certain extent, it depends on us for its existence. On Kawara's Today series, which record dates and resemble calendar pages, is one attempt to make time concrete and palpable. Guggenheim curator Jeffrey Weiss discusses the process and protocols that inform Kawara's Today series.
The Today series extends from January 4th, 1966, till his death this past summer in 2014. The day paintings are produced according to a very strict set of rules, a kind of protocol. Each painting, which is produced in the course of a single day, and if it's not finished, it is destroyed. It takes the form of a list of 8 possible dimensions and 3 possible colors, gray, red, and blue. But the colors are hand-mixed. So red is never the same exact red from one red painting to the next. And the same is true for gray and blue. So his paintings take the form of monochromes in the sense that they have a single field of color on which are inscribed in white paint the letters and numbers that represent the date of that day. And the language that he used for the date would change from place to place based on what city or town he was in at the time, because Kawara traveled extensively. I like to think of the letters and numbers as forms in that sense, as shapes that Kawara expands and contracts in order to get them to arrange themselves in a particular way that will fit the composition as he kind of conceived it according to this set of rules.
While Kawara attempts to record time and make it visible, other contemporary artists explore how the mass media manipulates our sense of time, and hence our sense of self and the world. Douglas Gordan, for instance, alters existing films, distorting real time to mimic a real-life sense of psychological discomfort, incompleteness, and fragmentation. For example, 24 Hour Psycho projects Hitchcock's 1960 masterpiece at a few frames per second, so that the whole film takes an entire day. It is still possible to experience narrative elements, mostly through familiarity with the original film, though they become fragmented and incoherent, and the suspense that is so typical of Hitchcock's timing is inflated to an absurd level. In doing so, Gordan disrupts our usual seamless enjoyment of Hollywood movies in order to expose the devices they use to entrance us. He makes it impossible to lose yourself in the action, constantly reminding us of the manipulations of real time. Christian Marclay also appropriates footage from films. His 7.5-minute video, Telephones, is made up of hundreds of clips from Hollywood movies that take us through the process of a telephone call, from dialing to the first ring, to saying goodbye and hanging up. No full conversations take place, though we get many fragments of conversations in attitudes that run the full gamut of emotions: surprise, desire, anger, disbelief, excitement, boredom. The piece moves easily back and forth in time, as well as between colour and black and white, aided by Marclay's whimsical ideas of continuity. The piece also conveys the sense of alienation and frustration that can occur when talking to people who aren't actually physically present. "If I could just see you, talk to you," a woman implores her lover. Sussman takes a slightly different approach, exploring real and real time in her video 89 Seconds at Alcázar, which brings to life Velázquez's famous 17th century painting, Las Meninas. The video resembles one continuous segment of real time. However, in reality, it's actually a montage of several hours worth of footage. So although it mimics real time, it is actually a product of real time, of several different takes edited together to create a cohesive single shot. It also explores the implied movement in this painting, as each of the characters has the appearance of coming or going, as if they've been caught mid-action. By reanimating the characters, Sussman underlines the notion that narrative painting is a frozen moment plucked from an unfolding drama, the temporal expanse of which exists only in the viewer's imagination. Here is Sussman describing this feature of her work.
The painting itself is really compelling, and it's really striking in that it has within the psychology of the characters in the painting, it has an almost photographic quality. Velázquez is able to capture sort of psychological moments, emotions within his characters that you don't really see very often in painting. You see it much more frequently in photography and actually in snapshots. So he predates photography by more than 200 years, but is able to do almost a snapshot-like thing with the way that he conveys a psychological moment. And that's what was so compelling about the painting, is you feel the sort of psychological drama of the characters. And so it's really arresting. The painting's extremely arresting when you see it in real life. You sort of feel like the characters are going to walk off the canvas. And everybody's in mid-motion. They're all coming from someplace or going somewhere. They're all in mid-gesture. Like no one could have held those poses for more than a couple of minutes without having to move again. And so it seemed obvious that you could treat the painting like a film still, and then invent the stills that came before it, or the motion that came before it, and the motion that comes after it.
In her video, That White Rush, Sam Taylor-Johnson seamlessly combines video footage of a decomposing swan, which was filmed over a period of 4 weeks, with a girl who was filmed in 4 minutes. So, what themes do you think Taylor-Johnson was exploring here? And how is time, both real and real, relevant in this piece? While Eve Sussman unlocks the imaginative time frozen within static narrative paintings, Hiroshi Sugimoto performs the opposite operation, condensing time in a feature-length film into one single black and white frame. These photographs of the interiors of movie theatres capture eerily glowing, seemingly empty screens created by long exposures that last the duration of the film being shown. So, what's the significance of these seemingly empty screens? This apparent emptiness is, in fact, fullness, a complete saturation of light, producing an effect that both captures but also literally erases the movement and flow of ordinary life. The idea that time is not fixed, but rather is relative to the movements of body and mind, underlies the work of many contemporary artists. In elaborate, multi-screen video installations, Doug Aitken creates a space that immerses the viewer and breaks down the typically linear structure of video and film to capture the contemporary perception of time as a fragmented, multi-layered experience. One of his best-known works, Electric Earth, uses multiple rooms to show a lone protagonist wandering through a post-apocalyptic urban landscape. His image is projected on the walls of each room as he moves with dance-like motions through an empty parking lots, bedrooms, laundromats, and petrol stations, which themselves also appear to be vibrating and mutating. A voiceover utters, "A lot of times I dance so fast that I become what's around me." Aitken's intention is to evoke a subjective experience of time and space. According to Aitken, our bodies move in cycles that are repetitious and machine-like. We lose track of thoughts. Time can slip away from us. It can stretch out or become condensed. Sometimes the speed of our environment is out of sync with our perception of it. When this happens, it creates a kind of grey zone, a state of flux that fascinates me. According to Aitken, time is a critical subject of this work. I broke up Electric Earth into a sequence of spaces because I'm not interested in constructing something linear. Film and video structure our experience in a linear way simply because they're moving images on a strip of emulsion or tape. They create a story out of everything because it's inherent to the medium and to the structure of montage. But, of course, we experience time in a much more complex way. The question for me is, how can I break through this idea, which is reinforced constantly? How can I make time somehow collapse or expand, so it no longer unfolds in this one narrow form? Contemporary artists explore time in a multitude of ways, whether they're trying to record time and make it palpable, or exploring so-called real time and filmic devices used to manipulate time, or visualizing the implied before and after in narrative painting, or recreating a completely subjective experience of time. Works such as these are continuations of age-old debates over the nature of time and how we as humans observe, experience, and perceive it.